Ladies and gentlemen, we are inching closer to crowning the winner of the Great Debaters Contest, and now we are in the semi-finals of our national competitions. I am your host, Esperancia Kapanga.
And I am Chris Boru. The bone of contention between our two giants representing Mombasa and Nyeri is poverty is the biggest security threat facing Africa.
In the opposition are the gentlemen from the C, Alidina Visram High School.
And in the proposition, we have Season 7 national champions, Nyeri High School. Proposal number 1, you have 3 minutes to make a statement.
Poverty is the biggest security threat facing Africa. My name is Oweru Wanyeki from Nyeri High School. And today I want to shed some light on this motion. First of all, what is poverty? Poverty is a state of being, the state that you lack something which is necessary, something that is basic. And what is threat? A threat is an intention to inflict pain, injury, damage, or any other hostile action. And security. When you talk of security, what comes in your mind? Security is a state of being free from danger, and its opposite is insecurity. And we have various forms of insecurity. Forms of insecurity facing Africa, we have social insecurity, we have economic insecurity, we have political insecurity. Those are the 3 types of insecurity. And when it comes to poverty, we have types of poverty. We have 6 types, in fact, of poverty. One is generational poverty. According to udemy.com, generational poverty is where one has environmental disadvantages or environmental disasters. That is generational poverty. The other is absolute poverty. Absolute poverty, according to the same udemy.com, is where one lacks basic needs. The other type of poverty is relative poverty. Relative poverty is when you have basic needs, but again you are disadvantaged by the standards of living of the state or country that you are in. Now let us look at absolute poverty, relative poverty. What do they cause? They cause economic insecurity. Now according to World Business Insight, they say that the major type of insecurity facing Africa is economic insecurity. And we look at 2 types of poverty. One type of poverty which is absolute poverty, and the other is relative poverty. They cause economic insecurity. That is one type of insecurity. Another type of insecurity they cause is food insecurity, which is a type of social insecurity. Now, you say that poverty is not the major cause of insecurity in Africa. Now, we have to agree to disagree. That we have many causes of insecurity in Africa, or many threats facing security in Africa. There are many, but poverty is the major cause facing security in Africa. Now we look at the types of security. Well, let us measure on economic insecurity. Economic insecurity, the first way which somebody or a country can face economic insecurity, according to worldatlas.com, they say is when one does not meet their financial needs. Now, when you don't meet your financial needs, according to answerafrica.com, answerafrica.com said that 47% of Africans live below poverty level, which is earning less than $1 a day. And the major cause of insecurity in Africa, the major type of insecurity that we have in Africa is economic insecurity. This is the type of insecurity they are facing. If at all 47% of Africans are facing economic insecurity, that is one type of insecurity because they are poor. Then what else is the cause of insecurity in Africa? Then we have to agree. We have many causes or many threats facing security in Africa, but poverty is a major cause. I rest my case.
First opposer, you have 3 minutes to present your case.
My name is Farouk Rajab from the Alidina Visram High School, opposing the motion, poverty is the biggest security threat. Poverty is the biggest security threat facing Africa. Well, actually, I'm here to show you that there are more security threats or bigger security threats facing Africa other than poverty. On to the definitions. Poverty is simply lack of means necessary to meet basic personal needs such as food, clothing, and shelter. Now, security is the state of being away from danger, and threat is a statement of an intention to inflict pain, injury, damage, or other hostile action on someone in retribution for something done or not done. Well, the speaker before me has actually made things simpler by explaining to us the types of security or the kinds of security. Well, security ranges on different grounds. There's food security, financial security, economic security. But let me go further by saying one bigger problem than poverty that is facing us as Africa in terms of security, and that's terrorism. When we mention terrorism, the kind of image that comes in our minds is loss of lives. And these people don't stop. Isn't this a problem? It is a problem, a bigger problem than poverty. September 2013, the Westgate Mall was invaded by Al-Shabaab members with approximately 200 people wounded and a total of 71 deaths. 2015, in Garissa University, 147 people were killed. More than 79 people were injured, according to BBC World News. Isn't this a bigger problem than poverty? This is just Kenya. The Mogadishu truck bomb was one of the most fatal incidents in Somalia, taking the lives of 500 Somalis by one terrorist group, the Al-Shabaab, reported on Monday, 16 October 2017 by The Guardian. Isn't this a problem in itself? Isn't this a bigger problem that we should look into that's facing us as Africa? Al Jazeera reports that since January 2015, deadly attacks on luxurious hotels have been recorded, especially in North and West Africa. With Sousse beach resort attack in Tunisia, 26 June 2015, where 38 people were killed and more than 39 people wounded. Isn't this a bigger problem? Now, let me just shed light on economic insecurity. Just like Sri Lanka lost its port to China, Angola is following suit in terms of economic security, with China owing its $60 billion and every citizen in Angola has to pay $475 to China, despite of your level of income. This is a bigger security threat that we have to look into than just poverty. Thank you.
Second proposer, you have 3 minutes for a rebuttal.
To the opposers, thank you very much for helping me prove that economic insecurity is the major insecurity facing Africa. Why do I say so? If there is economic insecurity, there means there is lack of funds or lack of material resources. And what does Africa do when we lack these material resources? Debt. That is where debt gets into the equation. My name is Austin Kabera from Nyeri High School, here to propose the motion that states, poverty is the biggest security threat facing Africa. Let us go to research done by United Nations Economic Index and in collaboration with China Africa Research Initiative by November 2018. It stated that Angola, Ethiopia, Kenya, DRC, Sudan, and Zambia owe China over more than $86 billion in debt. And why are they borrowing this much? Because of economic insecurity. Why are they borrowing this much? Because of the recurring budget in these countries. They are not able to sustain their budgets. They are not able to build infrastructure that in the end will be able to provide us with profit so that we can be able to pay back the debts. This is the major cause of insecurity in Africa, ladies and gentlemen. Economic insecurity. And that is why Africa is regarded as the poorest continent in the world, rated second before Asia now. Asia is the second poorest continent in the world after Africa. In Africa, over 65,000 people die every day. 65,000 people, die every year because of poverty. May it be whether it is lack of food, may it be whether it is lack of shelter, and they were killed by environmental hazards. This is a type of poverty, ladies and gentlemen, and this is what we want to eradicate. That is why we are telling you economic insecurity is the biggest insecurity in Africa. So if it is the biggest insecurity, which this means poverty is the biggest security threat, because what causes the economic insecurity? Poverty. They have talked about terrorism. Yes, it is true. Terrorism has taken so many lives, but you cannot compare the number of lives terrorism has took from African people as compared to the number that poverty has taken. Ladies and gentlemen, poverty kills every single day. We are not saying terrorism is not as deadly, but how many times, how many in every hour of the day do you hear of a terrorist attack? Right now, as we are speaking, 2 people are dead every 5 minutes in Africa because of poverty, according to africaquest.com. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to solve the elephant in the room, ladies and gentlemen. We are not addressing it. The problem is economic insecurity. And the security threat that is bringing this is poverty. Research done by Brookings.education said that according to africanquest.com, the countries that are most in debt, you find that they have a lot of insecurity. The first country is South Africa. If you go to their previous history, you will find that during the apartheid regime, there was a lot of insecurity because of racial boundaries, ladies and gentlemen. This was a type of insecurity, but they needed a lot of money to be able to be stable. That is why they needed to earn, that is why they needed to borrow, and that is why these debts are recurring every single year.
You have 3 minutes for rebuttal.
My name is Saleh Khali from Alidina, Visram, here to oppose the motion that says poverty is the biggest security threat facing Africa. Now, why would I oppose this? Because I don't believe this is true. One, before that, I would ask you a question. Do you think people die because they are poor? You said every year 65,000 people die in Africa because they are poor. Does death really care if you're rich? Does death really care if you're rich? No, it doesn't. Now, on to my first point. I would say poor leadership is among the threats that face Africa. How? Many countries in Africa suffer from electing poor leaders. Given that Africa has entered this new millennium with very little improvement the way it has been conducted its affairs over the many years, and the fact that the present systems and the models of government and leadership look most unlikely to produce radical changes. It's the same thing we are doing, nothing different. We are doing the same thing. Why not change our leaders? Why not bring change into the system? Why not fix our leaders, those who are at the top? We are making noise of poverty, poverty, poverty. These people at the top, the people in power, are making us poor, and we are the ones electing them. Why not elect better leaders? Now, on to my second point. I would like to talk about moral decadence, permissiveness of the society. Moral decadence as a process starts within the family, and for the worst cases, it ends in the international arena. All this is undesirable. We are letting loose of our children these days. In the past, my child is your child. It's everybody's child. We're letting loose of our children, and everybody is pointing fingers to the other. Now, it's not my fault. The clergy is washing his hands. The parents are washing their hands. The teachers are letting go of the kids. Who is supposed to take care of these kids? The youths, you and me, that is, are the assets of any country, but they easily become a burden if they're affected by the moral decadence. The Standard says that in December last year, police in Kisauni, Mombasa, where I come from, arrested over 50 youths who were involved in crime. This sad story is repeated in not only counties in Kenya, but also other countries. Sins are a thing of the past nowadays. The clergy is not taking any part in anything. So are other Muslim and other religious leaders. What is their role? What are they supposed to do? We should focus on this and such to prevent further insecurity, further threats of insecurity towards Africa. And I would like to go back to my point on poor leadership. Again, I would like to insist, please, when we are trying to bring change, let us focus on the leaders that we elect. Let's just not elect leaders who are going to drown themselves in their riches and they leave us in debts of poverty. Thank you.
The proposers have been asked, isn't poor leadership what causes poverty? Meaning that poor leadership will indirectly be the main cause of our security threats in Africa. The opposers, on the other hand, have been asked, isn't poverty the main reason why we have terrorism coming about? In which case, that still brings us to the statement in our motion that poverty is the root cause of security threats in Africa. Proposer number 3, you have 3 minutes to respond.
The brag that we have all attained clarity of sight is best put when we see things for what they are as opposed to what we might have wanted them to be. Well, my name is George Karaoke here to propose this motion that poverty is the greatest security threat facing Africa. And first of all, to the question asked, why do you think that poor leaders, why don't you think that these poor leaders are the ones that cause insecurity? And I will put it this way. Poverty, poor leaders, poverty, economical security caused by what we call relative poverty. Like we stated, these poor leaders do not compare to the average man. I go to indexmundi.com, and what does indexmundi.com tell me? It tells me that 82% of men feel inferior while reporting sexual harassment cases, while 12.3% of women feel insecure. You may think that this is too theoretical until a boy of 16-year-old goes to report that, you know what, my 17-year-old girlfriend molested me. You as the security officer, a boy raped by a girl, think of how you shall react to that. International Monetary Fund, 16th July 2016. What does it tell me? That people are dying. No, actually, a question. Do people die because they are poor? Yes, that is a yes. Social security. Why? What do these people lack? They lack the access to maternal health care. That is in itself a poverty. Urban poverty, which we said refers to the lack of access to social needs. And that is under the SDG goal number 3. That is under the SDG goal number 3, which is good health and well-being. I go to SDG goal number 16, which is peace, justice, and strong institutions, political poverty. What is political poverty? If I may put it, political poverty, I put it best in DRC Congo, in the times of Mobutu Sese Seko, in the times of Joseph Kasavubu. And what do these people do? These people allow Belgians to come and exploit their resources at the expense of locals. And what has this cost? This has cost social security, lack of peace. And finally, economic security remains big, but poverty existing, there is no security. Thank you.
Proposer, you have 3 minutes to respond to your question.
My name is Thomas, and I'd like to answer the question that was posed. Is poverty. Doesn't poverty cultivate terrorism? Well, I'll say no. What the proposers are doing is that they are looking at everything at face value. We have deeper institutional issues more than poverty. Look, religious extremism, that's the thing. Religious extremism is the thing that is pumping up terrorism in Africa and outside Africa. Look at the details. Only 40% of rebel movements in Africa lack jobs, which means all the others had something to do, and which means they were from stable families. A good example is the perpetrator of the Garissa attack, which killed 100 and something people. The guy had a university degree. He was from a stable background, but he still went into extremism. The ideas push terrorists, not money. I'll start with my first point. Population explosion in Africa. This causes social insecurity. Here are some interesting facts. 13% of the world's population is estimated to live in sub-Saharan Africa. 36% is expected to live in sub-Saharan Africa by 2100. And the Gambia has, every woman in the Gambia has 5.42 children. Well, here are the details. That means that we are facing a population explosion in Africa. We have more workforce coming out, but less jobs. So what we need to address is not giving them the fish, it's teaching them how to fish. It's time we already understood that as Africans we need to stop depending on handouts, not aids anymore, but it's building industries. And that's where we get to the first opposer who mentioned political stability, which means we have a problem with choosing our right leaders. Starting from here, right here, we choose more on populism grounds. Who for the ladies, it's who's most handsome. And mostly, we don't vote on the basis of policies. You can agree with me. We vote on the basis of who favors me as far as tribes are concerned, who's related to me, who can get me a job. That's what we think about. So we need to address deeper issues more than just alleviating poverty. And alleviating poverty, that's just looking at it at face value. We need to address deeper issues, not issues that are just laying bare. And according to World Bank, 22,000 migrants died between 2000 and 2014. People are dying across the Mediterranean every day. People smugglers are making money. It's not that jobs are not there in Africa, just that we are too much. You know, the population is expanding at a higher rate than how we are industrializing. So that would be, and illiteracy. UNESCO says that 60% of children aged between 15 and 17 are out of school in Africa, and a third are between 12 and 13. Gender means that 9 million girls are out of school and 6 million boys are out of school. So there's that gender inequality there. And I talk to this. We need to educate people. Teach them how to fish. Don't give them fish. Deeper institutional problems that we are supposed to address. Terrorism, all those are just caused by a couple of things at the back, and population explosion, illiteracy, that's just a few of them. Deeper issues need to be checked on, not, and I'll repeat this, we do not need to give them the fish. Give them a net, send them to the ocean, and let them get the fish. Let them get themselves out of poverty, not handouts. Thank you.
Proposers, you have 1 minute to make a final statement.
Now, thank you very much, our able opposers. We acknowledge all types of insecurity, all causes. We know there are other causes of insecurity that we don't refute. But again, what is the major type of insecurity? I told you it is economic insecurity. And the major cause of economic insecurity, according to all the sites that I quoted, Quora.com, World Business Insight, is poverty. And even the other insecurity that you're saying and the terrorism that you're talking about, you told us that there is a 40% which is caused by poverty, which comes to terrorism because of poverty, and 60% because of other religious extremism and other pleasures. Now, we have that 40%. It is still because of poverty. Look at any other type of insecurity, social insecurity. We talked about the deaths, which are caused by lack of social amenities in each and every day. And 65,000 people in Africa, each and every year, they are caused by poverty. They lack social amenities. That is absolute poverty. All this is poverty. Every time you trace any type of insecurity in Africa, you will find traces of poverty. We talk of economies, falling economies. Leaders, they come from poor backgrounds. That is why when you elect them, they are just after squandering money. That is also poverty. And poverty is the major cause. We have many causes that we don't refute, but poverty is a major cause. Thank you.
Opposers, you have 1 minute to make a final statement.
Politics, terrorism, economic insecurity, illiteracy, poor leadership. Poor leadership, that's the key thing. Poor leadership. And here's something. Young people in Africa find work, but not in places that pay good wages, develop skills, or provide a measure of job security. That means we are learning the wrong things, or even if we are learning the wrong things, some are not even learning something. So these issues need to be addressed. For those of us who are going to turn 18 soon, let's address the poor leadership problem. And for those of us who are innovators here, creators, scientific minds, let's build industries. And for those who want to combat terrorism, let's preach good religion. And for those of us who want to go to school, let's take our children to school. That's how you alleviate poverty in Africa. And the youth unemployment in Africa is a ticking time bomb. That's the bigger issue. Let's address those. Poverty will be out of Africa. I'll repeat that again. Let's get the nets and go to the ocean. Let's fish. No handouts. We are past that. Thank you.
I think I love what Waweru did, but I think as we agreed here, there was a lot of time in terms of definitions of the different types of poverty and all. It took a lot of your time. So we didn't have any statistics of showing us some of the evidence of what is happening down on the ground. This being a motion of cause and effect, I think it could have been easier for us to tell us, this is what this country has, this is the level of poverty because we have such things done, and then this is the result as well. But I think I love what Austin as well came in to do. Nonetheless, in as much as you're very passionate, which is standing out as well, and your style is great, as my colleague has said, there was one point about 65,000 people who die every day because of poverty. You kept using that, and I think it was also repeated as well by George. And now the question was, what is the source of this? Because, it's a big number. We want to know where you're getting this from as well. George, well done. Very passionate as well. And I think the point on time was mentioned. I like the variety that you brought in, the social security, very good examples. I think that was very commendable. And I think you just need to work on. But your reference on SDGs, that was commendable as well.
The beginning was not as good as I expected it to be. We spent too much time defining terms instead of supporting your side of the motion. However, you were very confident. Some of you had points that did not hit the nail on the head. So the point was left hanging. So we didn't know if you were opposing yourself or, it left a question. Some of you struggled with the language in bringing out your points. So it also left a question hanging, like we were not sure what you were saying, but you tried.
For Alidina, I think you need to manage your time well. When the bell goes once, it's time for you to conclude. Don't wait for it to ring a second time, because then we penalize you. I know that there's been a question regarding the fact that you did not point what was the single biggest threat in Africa for you, if it's not poverty. But there are two ways of cross-examination. One is saying, for opposing, one is saying, for us it's not poverty, it is this. Or, for you, there's none that is a single greatest threat. There are various threats, and I think that's what you are each trying to bring out. So for that, I think I understood what you were trying to do.
I like the way both teams were able to articulate their points. I think you did your best. I'd like just probably to say that Waweru, I like the way he contextualized the argument as he began. I think that was a good thing. As well as for Alidina Visram, I like the way the last presenter concluded on where they think the motion needs to rest. I basically would just encourage both teams to be careful with the kind of examples they give, and I've seen that the issues of facts, not either being able to support your case, or sometimes the facts not being able to reinforce your argument. So I thought probably there was an aspect of, if you had gotten some time, you'd have been able to get a stronger argument or a better presentation than what you did. But overall, I like the work that you guys did.
And now, down to the numbers. Nyeri High School, the judges saw it fit to award you 70%. Let's give them a round of applause. Alidina Visram High School, you earned yourself 73%, making you the winners of this debate. Congratulations to both schools for putting in good efforts.
Dear viewers, thank you for tuning in to watch the Great Debaters contest as we inch closer to finding out who will be the next great debater of Season 8. I have been your host, Chris Boru.
And I am Esperanza Kapanga. Catch you in the next episode.